So we are about to wrap up our trip here in France, and I thought I would share a little bit of our favorite experiences with camping options so that if you're planning to come over here and rent an RV, you can have a little bit of an idea of the different types of campsites that you might find while in France.
We're Heath and Alyssa, and in this series, we're camping across Europe. We love camping in motorhomes because it gets us into the heart of different countries where we can spend time in beautiful national parks and quaint villages.
So in this video, I'm going to go through 5 different types of camping options that you might see while over in France. This isn't necessarily everything, but these are the 5 that we have experience with from our trip driving our motorhome over here for the past month. The first thing that you're going to see a lot of in France as well as throughout Europe is commercial campgrounds. They're everywhere. And we stayed at quite a handful of commercial campgrounds. Some of them were so-so, some of them were amazing. One of our favorite ones was in Chamonix, and we just had this amazing view of a mountain. It was so nice. And because we were visiting here in the off season, we're in late September, early October, there was not a lot of crowds. We had no trouble getting reservations or just calling ahead to show up at most places. And we had a lot of really nice experiences in campgrounds. Another one that I really liked was just outside of Lourdes, France. Every single morning, the hosts would wake up and make fresh baked pastries. So Ellie and I would walk up, we'd say hi to the animals on our way to the front office, and then we'd go get morning pastry. So just like in the US, you have commercial campgrounds as an option for whenever you come over to France, and there's a whole spectrum of the different types of campgrounds that you might see within that range, from not so nice to very nice. And the way that we found those campgrounds was really just on Google. I would look at our route for the day and see what type of camping options we had. As far as commercial camping, just type in camping into Google and look at the ones that had the highest reviews on Google, and that was basically my whole strategy for finding those campsites. The other thing I liked about staying in commercial campgrounds while we were over here was the access to the amenities was really nice. Like with kids, the playgrounds and access to those while we were staying in campsites was very, very nice. Almost every park we stayed at, we could see the playground right outside of our window, so it almost felt like we had our own little private playground for the kids, which was always really great. And one of the things I also liked about commercial campgrounds was it felt like a fun way to be able to get to meet people. A lot of times the hosts are in that type of business because they like interacting with guests, and so when we pull in, just getting to talk a little bit to the host, or when we'd go get our morning pastries at the campsite in Lourdes, Ellie would give them the money and we'd laugh and kind of have these little moments where you get to interact and meet people. And for me, that's a fun part of getting to travel. So number 1, commercial campgrounds is always an option when you're traveling in a motorhome across France. The second camping option that we reverted to quite a bit was just free campsites. We downloaded an app called Park for Night. This is an app we also used in 2019 when we spent a month in a motorhome across Italy, and it was just as helpful this trip as it was the last one. It has gotten even better. There's a ton of content for anywhere you want to go as far as reviews and photos, and there's a very handy translate button. So you have people all from different countries who are leaving reviews of different free camping options in France, and you can always click on the little translate button in the app and it will show you whatever language conversion you need to have to be able to read that review. Free camping is available in France. It's legal in different places. In certain nature regions or along the coast, it is prohibited in areas. So that's why using an app like Park for Night is extremely helpful if you want to do some free camping options while you're over here. Typically, the way we'd find free camping options is similar to how we'd find commercial ones. I would go to the Park for Night app. I would look for areas around where we were or where we were going to, and then on the app, it will show you places that you can stay overnight or places you can just stay during the day, and then just read a lot of the reviews. If it seemed like a nice, safe, quiet place to park for the night, a lot of times we would go and check it out, and we didn't have any problems the entire time that we were over here. A few of the things I really liked about the free campsites: number 1, they're free. Number 2, the access to the hiking trails and the places that were just outside of our door were truly incredible. Sometimes we'd wake up, make our coffee, eat our breakfast, and then immediately just walk out the door and go on a hike. And to me, that was just a really cool way to experience a night of camping in France. Of course, with any free camping option, making this video, I feel the need to reiterate: clean up after yourself. no dumping unless there's signs. Plenty of the free camping options that we stayed at have areas that you can pay and you can dump and fill up your tanks. And these are things that you can see in the Park for Night app as well. It'll show you if there are any amenities on site. Like sometimes you can go to a lot and it's free, but you have to pay for dumping your tanks or filling up your water. So make sure to keep all of these places nice and clean whenever you go, and be respectful of whatever the environment looks like before you show up there. A third way of camping in France is the French airs. France does rest stops better than any place I've ever been. They're similar to rest stops in the US, but way better and nicer from our experience. There were two different types of drive days that we had in the RV. We would take the back roads whenever possible, but on longer days where it was going to be an hour or 2 hours difference because we were trying to make up a lot of ground, we'd take the toll roads. There was a ton of toll roads that we drove in our motorhome in France. And every few miles, it seemed like there's a French air. I looked on the website and saw that there's over 200 of them across France. So they're plentiful, and many of them allow free motorhome camping options, as well as they have restaurants, coffee, parks, sometimes playgrounds, and the ability to dump your tanks and fill up your water at many of them. Although not every French air allows this, so you want to check on Park for Night and see which air will allow you to dump and fill up your tanks, because they're not available at each and every one. There was a stretch where we had just went through a city where we were trying to find a place to pull over and play at the playground and get some gas, and several of the reviews through this whole stretch of road had reported some break-ins on the Park for Night listing for those airs. However, I think this was more indicative of a specific area and a region and not of French airs in total, because many of the ones, as I said, that we stopped at were very nice, and I would have felt comfortable staying at many of them. The fourth way that we found camping options in France was through a site called Home Camper. If you're familiar with Hip Camp in the US, it's a very similar program. So people list their land, and you can take a tent or a motorhome, and it'll say which one you can do, but you're basically going to rent land from individual property owners. The first and only time we did this while in France was just outside of Champagne, France, and I had been on the Home Camper app and saw that this particular listing had about 130 reviews. It was this chateau-like building and absolutely beautiful. So we ended up going up there. We spent a little bit for the night. I don't remember how much it was, maybe 20, 30 euros. Bought a little bit of champagne from the host. We even had electric that night, and it was just a really cool experience. Home Camper didn't have quite the coverage I'd hoped for while traveling in France, so we didn't use it very consistently, but just the one experience that we had with Home Camper was really pleasant and nice, and I would definitely try them again. The last but not least, and my personal favorite way that we camped while in France was using the France Passion Program. The France Passion Program has been around for 30 years, and it's where wineries and farms allow you to come and park for free on the land in exchange for buying goods at their business. So you pay an annual fee to be part of the France Passion Program. I signed up before we came over here. They send you a book, you have a membership card, and there's an app, and their coverage is phenomenal in France. Every single night that we were looking for a campsite, it was inevitable that we'd be able to find a France Passion site. I'm not sure exactly how many we stayed at while over here. I want to say at least 5 or 6 different France Passion sites, but each and every one of them were incredible. We would roll up, communication with the host was pretty seamless. You'd call them directly from the app, and then you'd roll in, go inside, buy some wine or buy some olive oil or whatever they had on site, get to talk to the host a little bit, and then have this beautiful view of whatever campsite you had for the night. Many of them have lots of reviews in the app, so you can see what other RVers have said about the space, if there's tight access, or how much they like the wine. And so you have a bit of an idea of what the experience is going to be like before you show up. But this was by far our favorite way of camping while over here in France. And I paid 30 euro to join the France Passion Program, and it was absolutely worth it. I wouldn't say I saved money using France Passion, because I would end up buying at least a couple of bottles of wine or some nice olive oil while on site, but it was less about trying to save every penny and more about having a cool experience while we were over here and a beautiful place to camp for the night, which it absolutely was. So I hope this video was helpful if you're thinking about coming over in a motorhome or a van and spending some time traveling across France. In general, we'd heard a lot of great things about RVing over here in France, and I have to say that it was a very motorhome friendly country. Even going through the small villages, there was never a point where I felt unwelcome or because we were in a motorhome that we shouldn't be or belong in a place. Our trip across France has been amazing, and I'm so happy that we decided to do this in an RV because I think it's just been a cool way to experience and get to see the country, meet people, go to places that have been a little bit off the beaten path that we would have never seen had we not just pulled them up and decided to go to a random town for the evening. If you decide to come over here, I'm happy to answer any more questions that you have in the comments. I hope you have a great day.